moving on from Man United and that penalty decision because it triggered me. Chelsea again lose. Maybe a slightly better performance. What's going wrong, Will? Why can't Chelsea get a positive result?
Why'd you come to me first? Nah, I'm just
joking. You're the Chelsea rep.
Why'd you come to me, bro? Look, I have no idea. Like Chelsea just at the moment, bro, they just look discombobulated, bro. Like, I don't even know if that's a proper word, but they just look confused. Like the goalkeeper for that second goal, the fact that he wasn't able to get a good hand on that. I mean, again, it's kind of like the same thing that we're saying basically every single time Chelsea lose. Like, we know what the issues are in that team, right? Their defense is not that good. The goalkeeper situation is not that good. And they don't have anybody aside from Cole Palmer up front that is lethal in the final third. So if Cole Palmer's not firing, if he's on a little bad run of form, which he is at the moment in terms of he's not performing at the level that we all expect him to, then they have necessarily, there's nothing really for them to do. I mean, you could probably blame it on Maresca. I saw that Reece James, he was in midfield. I don't really think that he looked that good. I think Marcus Rashford coming off the bench, instant impact. I mean, he actually looks pretty decent. Asensio scoring a brace. I don't know, man. Like Chelsea, they seem like they're just in a free fall. And again, I think that you kind of have to question what the direction of the club is, because a lot of these issues could have been addressed in the January window. And instead of doing that, their board still went for young, unproven players. And now they're in this situation where it doesn't even look like top four is a guarantee for them at the moment. So, yeah, it's not looking good for Chelsea right now, bro. And then with all the injuries that they have.
Focus has to be on the manager, though. That's where the focus has to be. I think that we need to take a long, hard look at the start of the season and question how much of that was down to Maresca and how much of that was down to the players carrying over what Poch had done at the back end of last season. Because people forget, Pochettino in the second half of the season with Chelsea, they were the third best team in the league statistically. They finished above us in a second half of the season league table type thing, which people do. They had a very good second half of the season. Players had finally clicked. They'd finally understood the system. Players had come back from injury. They were on board. They were all singing from the same hymn sheet for the first time in the season. But they sack him. Okay. And then you bring in Maresca. I don't think that those Chelsea players or the Chelsea team, should I say, were playing Maresca ball straight away or were fully, riding off the Maresca wave straight away. I think they were still riding off what Pochettino had done for the past year. But then that, as is going to happen, when that voice is not there, eventually that wave fades away. It goes away, which happened around about December time. And that's where you look at the manager that's in place now, Enzo Maresca. How can you fix this? How can you put your imprint on the team? And the moment it's been on him, Chelsea have been the most inconsistent team in the Premier League. Inconsistent might actually be kind. They've been consistently bad is probably the correct term to use. Certain players have not turned up and shown the levels. Yeah, it was gonna. The inconsistency was always gonna happen because they're a young team, and when you have young players, they are inconsistent. When you have a team full of them, your team is going to be inconsistent. But the manager has to step in at a point and do the smart thing, change a couple things around, maybe drop the line 5 yards, get a little bit of confidence back in the team, because that's what young players need. They need the confidence, and then they go again.
I think the fixtures they've got now with Southampton, Leicester, Copenhagen, home and away in the Conference League, that is surely a run of fixtures Chelsea should be looking at going, right, that's 12 points there. They should dispatch of Copenhagen by a minimum of 5 goals over 2 legs. They'll beat Southampton and Leicester, and then it's what are they going to do after that? Because I think they're a confident team.
I think you're doing a bit too much. They can't look past their next game right now, bro. All that run of games is ridiculous. For
yeah, but if they lose to Southampton at the Bridge, then major questions have got to be asked about Maresca.
I don't think they should. I don't think they should, because I don't blame Maresca for any of this personally. Like Chelsea went from 12. For me, let me learn. Like Chelsea went from 12 to 6. They sacked their manager, and they got a worse manager in. Like what was always going to happen? This, Like we talked about Maresca not being ready for a high pressure job like this, but Chelsea thought they were going to give it to him. They've left him with a young team with no guys that inspire the dressing room. So when they're in the deep darks of form, there's no one to lift them up and get them out, or there's not that special moment in the game that gets them through, that gets them that 3 points. It was inevitable what's happening right now. It was just they picked them up, they carried the wave at the start of the season, and then this was always going to happen. Chelsea fans obviously hoped that their board would bail them out with money like they've been used to over the few years, but it didn't happen. Like at the end of the day, this was always coming. I don't know how they get out of this rut. Can they finish in the top 5? Potentially. Definitely not the top 4, but they can potentially finish in the top 5. But I don't think they should look past their next game at this point. And they need to find a solution to reawaken.
They can't look past the next game. They've got 2 wins from 10 in the league.
Brother, exactly.
Yeah, but the fixtures they've got coming up, do you not think they can get a run together going into that Arsenal game?
Henry,
of course they can, but they
play.
Can't focus like that.
They had the run of Everton away, Fulham at home, Ipswich
Everton away. Was that Moyes or was that
Dyche? That was Dyche. Everton. That run of 4 games, they should have picked up at least 9 points. They picked up 2.
If they don't get Champions League football, if you're like one of those like elite young players, do you like give it another year, or do you start asking questions, or is that too reactive?
Is there any players you're particularly talking about, Robin?
I think
just like generally, because they've got a lot of very good young players. Like the whole squad is full of good young
got
players.
To be sitting there thinking, okay, this is 3 years under this Clear Lake project, and if they finish outside the top 4 and don't win the Conference League, and then sack Maresca, that's another manager they're going through. I know he's on this death row contract where he's signed up until 2032, but surely he's got to be sitting there looking around going, I'm betting this. Because if you take Palmer out of this Chelsea side right now, and I know you can say that if you take Salah out of Liverpool, etc., but look, where would Chelsea be right now without Cole Palmer?
Has Cole Palmer been there 3 years already? I thought this was only
3 years under this new takeover.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I was about to say, I swear this is only like his second season at Chelsea.
For this project under Clear Lake to be out of the Champions League for 3 years, and if they don't win the Conference League and they finish outside the Champions League positions again,
then you have to sack
them finishing 6th or 7th. So these players that have signed these death row contracts have got to be thinking, if another manager comes in, at what point does this start to click and things start going in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do agree in terms of, like maybe some of these players will look around and say, maybe we should leave, because we all know like the contract length is crazy, but to be honest, it doesn't really mean anything, because if a player wants to leave, yes, the club, they technically do have the power, but you're not going to keep a player that's forcing a move, right? So yeah, I feel like that is definitely something that Chelsea have to worry about. And I think, it's like what Henry just said. If they don't win the Conference League, then you would have to sack Maresca, because like that should be a trophy that you automatically are winning. Like they shouldn't even necessarily be celebrating winning that trophy, because the competition.
Do you think if they sack the manager, that does more bad than good for Chelsea?
No, nah.
You think?
Nah.
Yeah?
I mean, like I don't really blame Maresca too much. I think that his style of football does suit the team, right? Like that possession kind of like build up, like the slow build up. I mean, kind of football, like that works because they do have a lot of technical players who are good with the ball at their feet. I more so blame the board, right? I just, because it's not Maresca that's not out there making the signings that are needed. It's not Maresca that isn't getting things done off the pitch for them to improve on the pitch. So I get the criticism for Maresca, but I don't think he's the biggest issue.
They finished 6th with Poch, and Maresca's a worse manager, so I don't get why.
But how can you say that Maresca's a worse manager when they first brought him in? Because he could have done like.
No, but he was though. He was a championship manager, and Poch had some experience in multiple leagues. He'd worked on a small budget. He's got the team ticking towards the end of the season. Yeah, some of the Chelsea fans believe that going from 12th to 4th was more realistic, which is crazy, but it is what it is. And then they sacked the manager, and we're here now. This is a result of Chelsea fans having too much high standards and not realizing you did make progress under Poch. I said that at the end of the season. If Chelsea sacked Poch, they're definitely not getting top 4. Even if they kept Poch, I'm not sure. They should have kept Poch. They have to. I don't know. I kind of think they have to. The kind of same thing we were saying about United last week. They kind of have to go with it now because
they don't.
Rid of a manager.
Different situation.
It's different, but they've sacked a manager after he finished sixth, right? And the team were clearly on a higher momentum at the end of the season. And now they've got this new man in. Like, what are they just going to keep chopping and changing every year and going again? They've got to stick with some exactly.
But you can't keep top.
They've got to stick with some pain and suffering for a period of time.
The way they want this project to go, they cannot keep chopping and changing managers because young players do not develop. If every year they've got a new manager, they don't develop. They'll hit their potential. They've got a new style of play. Really, they got a new manager who wants new things out of them. What young players need to develop well is a stable environment. I don't think Maresca is the right man for Chelsea. I said that to start the season. I don't think he's the guy long term. I think Chelsea should be looking at moving him on. And there's two top managers in the Premier League, Thomas Frank and Andoni Iraola. They are managers you can build a project around. They are managers who've shown they can develop young talent. They are managers who've shown they are. I would, yeah.
So then that's what I'm saying. Like, if he's not working, then you got to sack him.
But what can't happen is Chelsea go back to what they used to do under Abramovich, which is sack a manager every year or two, because we're not at the point where we think we need to be.
But that's what made them so successful, though.
Yes,
like,
but
they don't have that. But they don't have that level of squad now.
I will, and this is where I think. Sorry, I get where you're coming from, Will.
Yeah,
they go out this summer and they buy a world-class goalkeeper, a world-class centre-back, a world-class midfielder, and a world-class striker. Then maybe they can start sacking a manager every year. There are some Chelsea fans that think they're not going to do that. They're going to continue buying young players or players that need development. They're happy to come in on 50, 60, 80, 90, 100 grand a week. No one that wants to be paid above 150. If everyone they're buying for their first team is still going to be young, and what they're kind of banking on is as the players they bought 2 or 3 years ago turn 23, 24, 25, they will mature into that experience spine, which appears to be the part of the model they're going for. I don't think can someone show me the blueprint for how you win Prems, how you win Champions Leagues in that model? I don't know if there is one, and it feels like Chelsea are trying something new, but those young players will need an element of continuity to become good enough to be that spine. So I almost feel like when it comes to this Chelsea debate, there's points that they overlap a little bit, but they're not. We're not on the same page. I think you're right. If they go out and spend 300 million this summer on a really good core to add to this team, to bolster what they've got, you bring in another world-class midfielder next to Caicedo. You had a world-class striker ahead of Palmer. Yeah, 26, 27. You give them that core. Then I think you're right. You can look at it and go, well, now go and win a league title. And if a manager ends up in 7th by the end of the season, you sack him because you've got that core. I don't think you can do that if this summer they buy 8 more players and the oldest is 22 years old. So I think